What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT, and I'm really shocked right now. It currently is Friday afternoon, October 18th, 6:05 p.m. Eastern Time at the time I'm recording this, and the Saints have not fired Dennis Allen following their embarrassing Thursday night loss to their former head coach Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. I get that the Saints right now are dealing with a lot of injuries, but a lot of their best players on defense played last night against the Broncos, but you couldn't tell with how bad the defense looked. The Broncos offense has not been that good this season, but yet last night they were going up and down the field against New Orleans defense with ease. Yeah, you are missing a lot of key players on offense, but you still got a lot of key starters on defense still playing. Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, Chase Young. Where were those guys at last night? Didn't really hear them or notice them because the defense was just unwatchable. It's one thing for your offense to struggle. Nobody expected for New Orleans to have a lot of success on offense against a really good Broncos defense. But when you have a head coach who specializes on the defensive side of the football, and he has allowed that defense to surrender over 500 rushing yards in the past 7 quarters that they've played football, that's a problem. And when Richard Sherman at halftime kind of alluded to the Saints quitting on Dennis Allen, some people thought that he was overreacting. He was going a little bit overboard. I agree with Richard Sherman. The Saints have officially melded in on Dennis Allen. They don't respect this dude anymore. His message doesn't resonate with the players in our locker room anymore. You can't justify not firing Dennis Allen because of injuries when there are still a lot of good football players on that defense that are still fairly healthy, and the defense allows 200 rushing yards against the Broncos. You know, that game, the outcome didn't surprise me. The margin of victory by the Broncos is what took me by surprise because I expected that to be a low-scoring game, a defensive slugfest, where the Saints probably lose by a touchdown or less because of how well-respected Dennis Allen is as a defensive mind. When the side of the football that you're supposed to be an expert at is struggling, it's a big red flag that you're not a good head coach. And at this point, we are 3 years in to seeing Dennis Allen as the head coach for the Saints, and this franchise has taken a lot of steps backwards. Year 1, okay, he didn't have a lot of success. Year 2, you bring in Derek Carr, and the offense somewhat improves, and you go 9-8. But this season, you start out 2-0. You're blowing out everybody, putting 40 pieces on the Cowboys and the Panthers just to lose 5 straight right after. The only highlight of this season for the Saints franchise is that 2-0 start. Ever since then, it's been getting worse and worse every single week for this team. Injuries is not a reason to justify keeping Dennis Allen. There are other reasons outside of injuries to fire this dude. And with how bad this defense has looked the last couple of games, it's a fireable offense. You might as well go ahead and promote Clint Kubiak, your offensive coordinator, the interim head coach, and see if he can right this ship for the rest of this year. Because if not, keeping Dennis Allen this year all but guarantees that not only are you going to finish as one of the worst teams in the NFL, but you also are going to be in prime positioning to draft a quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft. Unless the Saints' plan this year is to tank, then firing Dennis Allen is something that already should have happened. When the Las Vegas Raiders lost Monday night last year to the Detroit Lions, it didn't take their owner too long to pull the plug on Josh McDaniels. Everywhere that Dennis Allen has been, where he's been a head coach, he's been a failure. He fell with the Raiders, and he's failing right now with the New Orleans Saints. Mickey Loomis, as much praise and respect that he gets around the league for how good of a general manager he is, not firing Dennis Allen is a really head-scratching decision. And he didn't fire him last year. Most Saints fans knew coming into this season that they probably weren't going to be that good because you didn't have a lot of faith in Dennis Allen. And with you being 2-5 right now, losing 5 straight games, you get embarrassed on the night that the greatest player that ever put on your uniform, that being Drew Brees, gets inducted into the Ring of Honor, and you lose that embarrassing. That's a fireable offense. Drew Brees and the rest of this fan base that went to that game last night deserve better than the performance that they received out of this squad. It was just downright awful with how that defense played. Remind you, in the last 7 quarters of football for the Saints, they have surrendered over 500 yards on the ground. But Dennis Allen is supposed to be an expert on defense, right? You know, it just seems like it's time for the Saints to not only clean house with Dennis Allen, but to part ways with Mickey Loomis. He's really good at manipulating the cap, but he's not good at constructing a winning roster. The best draft class he had was the year he drafted Alvin Kamara. That was it. A lot of his draft picks have not panned out, and this team doesn't have good depth. Dealing with injuries and having your win-loss record impacted by them is one thing, but to lose by this big of a margin to a team that had their fair share of injuries too. Patrick Surtain didn't play. The Broncos had a good amount of injuries in that game. But yet, offensively, you felt confident that the Saints defense will be able to hold the Denver Broncos offense to at least under 20 points. So why is it that we go into halftime and the game is pretty much all but over? Bo Nix ain't even throw a single touchdown last night, but he was running all over the field. Javonte Williams was doing this thing. But yeah, you got Chase Young out there getting pancaked. You got Tyrann Mathieu dropping interceptions. What the hell is going on right now with this Saints defense? I'll tell you what's going on. This team has officially waved the white flag on Dennis Allen. The same way we saw the Chargers mail it in when they got blew out Thursday night against the Raiders last year, and Brandon Staley got fired soon after. When you lose this bad to your former head coach on the night that Drew Brees gets inducted into your Ring of Honor, you gotta get fired. Dennis Allen not being fired right now is a great opportunity for the Saints owner to just clean house with everybody. You can't keep blaming injuries for your team's shortcomings when all other 31 teams in the NFL right now are dealing with injuries. I'm a Steelers fan. Nearly our whole entire offensive line is out. We got like second and third stringers and guys off the street playing on the offensive line, but the Steelers are 5-2 or 4-2 right now. Why? Because they are a well-coached football team. Even when the Titans were down last year under Mike Vrabel, they had hella injuries and they were still competitive. You just weren't going to play the Tennessee Titans with Mike Vrabel on the sidelines and just get an easy win against them. They were a tough and scrappy football team. You don't see that toughness. You don't see that scrappiness with the Saints under Dennis Allen as their head coach. I'm really surprised right now that Dennis Allen has not got his pink slip yet, because he should have got fired a long time ago. And when are you guys who continue to defend this dude just going to accept reality that he is not the right guy to lead this franchise to success? You got embarrassed by your former head coach. You know, Sean Payton was the master. Dennis Allen was the apprentice, and the master just completely outclassed and outcoached his former apprentice. Embarrassing. You go from Sean Payton, a future Hall of Fame head coach, to one of the worst head coaches in NFL history when it comes to winning percentage. Dennis Allen lost with the Raiders, and he continues to lose right now. Eventually, when people show you who they are, you gotta believe them. When are the Saints going to accept the fact that Dennis Allen sucks as a head coach? There's no more excuses that you can make for this dude with how bad the defense has played. It's not like you were going up against the Houston Texans, the Green Bay Packers, or any of the top offenses in the league on Thursday night. You were going up against Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. Who's their best receiver? Who? Courtland Sutton? He's not really that good. The Broncos offense, for as good as what they looked last night, are not as good as what the box score shows. Because in a lot of other games they've played, they've not been as effective as what they looked like last night on offense against this Saints defense. This is the same team that at halftime against the New York Jets had -7 passing yards and finished the game with 60. Are you kidding me? But you allowed them to put 30 on you? Come on, man. It's time for Dennis Allen to get his walking papers. This team has quit on him. They don't have any burn in their eyes. They have no fire to give it their all as long as this dude is their head coach. And last night is evident of it. Hey, man, have you hit that like button yet? Have you subscribed to the channel? Because if not, what are you doing? It only takes less than a second to do so, man. I love football. You love football. This is the best place to be if you are a diehard fan of football, man. We're talking NFL, college football, 24/7, 365 days a year. If you are a diehard football fan, this is the right place for you. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon so you don't miss when we drop new content, and go live.